Melanin this, melanin that, melanin queen, neuromelanin. What is all of this about, yo? Why we keep hearing this? What is this? We black cause we melanin and all of this shit, copper. Y'all don't want to hear me talk about it, but look at this.
Holy relics. Those are melanin crystals. And people would tap into that to tap into you. That's melanin. Wrote this book called Melanin, the chemical key to great blackness, as they call it. Melanin to the great blacks. That's a good book. You should privilege yourself by perusing it one day. Now, this melanin that I'm talking about, you see it in your eyes and it makes your eyes brown. But some people don't have any melanin. So when you look in the eyes, you're looking at the veins in back of the eyes, and therefore the eyes look blue and green and gray because you're looking at the veins in back of the eyes. But you actually have an iris, which we call an iris, named after a black woman. You call it the iris of your eye, that's named after a black woman named Isis. Now, we're talking about the inside of the brain, and these are brain cells increased to the size of a car. They look like little bubbles here. Look like little bubbles, but this brain cell is actually blown up to about the size of a car. And in the center of your brain is this thing here. It looks like a galaxy. We don't know what it is. It's very big in people's brains, especially black folks. We don't know what this thing is, but it's sitting right below your pineal gland. It's a gland in the center of your brain, the center of your landmass, the center of your brain, the same place where Egypt sits, in the center of the landmass of the earth. It's a gland there called the pineal gland. And we couldn't study it directly at one time, so we studied a pine cone and to study the spins and the cycles of this pineal gland. It's a little gland about the size of a pea, but it looks like a pine cone. And we call it the pineal gland, and it secretes this melanin, and it changes the melanin into hormones. These hormones stimulate action during the day. We call it serious action, serotonin. And in the evening, it makes you mellow, and this hormone is called melatonin. It makes you mellow. And the one that makes you serious during the day, we call it serotonin. So melanin controls when you're going to become a man, controls every clock in your body, controls when your eyelashes grow, when your eyebrows grow, when your teeth grow. Melanin synchronizes the rhythmicity of your system, keeps things from being in conflict, synchronizes motion, helps you dream, helps you have these thoughts that you didn't know you were going to have. Melanin does that. It's the key to everything. It's a man who showed you how this thing works. He said, these are the cycles in the body. Everything has a cycle. The tide goes out, the tide comes in. Everything has a cycle. There's day, there's night. Everything has a cycle. And you have all these cycles inside your body. The kidney has a cycle, the heart has a cycle, the intestines has a cycle. But something has to keep these things in order, and that's melanin. So a man said, I'm going to show you these cycles. I'm going to make them into little wheels and show you how these things are synchronized. And he said, here it is right here. It's a wheel clock. The man's name was Benjamin Banneker. He knew melanin. He said, you don't understand it, but I'm going to show you how this thing works. These are the cycles of your kidneys. This is the cycle of your pancreas. He made them into wheels, and they all work, but they're synchronized by one rhythmicity, which they call melanin. That's where the wheel clock comes from. Every invention comes from your body. To know your body is to know everything. The camera comes from your eyes. The speaker comes from your ear. A nuclear reactor comes from your liver. A car motor duplicates your digestive system. Everything comes from your body. Crystals that they use in computers were learned from studying melanin crystals. That's where they got computer chips from. Everything comes from your body.
Melanin pigment, right?
Right.
Is so unbelievable, George. They use it in computer chips now because it has an ability to transduce electrical energy. Can you imagine this? It has this incredible ability to hold on to and transduce and manipulate electrons, electronic energy, and photons, photonic energy. It's fascinating because it has an ability to transduce electrical energy.
We talked about these melanin spacesuits that we got,
Yeah.
right? Which allow us to go through atmospheric conditions at a better rate than everybody else, right? But specifically with melanin, melanin is a very powerful thing, right? Because we can absorb more radiation than any other beings on the planet Earth. The darker you are, the more radiation you can absorb, right? So you have to understand, even when you're looking at your brown skin, you're looking at frequency or radiation trapped within that. This is literally light trapped within your body, right? This is why you go outside, you go in the light, and it gets darker. So that means that we also happen to exist at a heightened state of frequency because we have more energy, we have more radiation, which means that we become a very emotional people, but at the same time, we can utilize that emotion, alchemize it, and bring things out within us. So the goal is, if you take the most powerful people on the planet Earth and you program them, you use their womb, their mind, and their bodies, right? To program your ideas. Now you have the most powerful vessel on the planet Earth, bringing that into reality. So when we look at America, America understood this secret. Now, the secret of America was always learning how to capture and control God and utilize him. So when you look at America, America's business is the capturing, controlling, and the management and capitalization of God, which is you and I. How do we know this? So if you go look at every system in America that's built, the NBA is what? Majority black men, right? The music business, majority black men. Right? Now they're utilizing black women in political places and things of that nature. Look at the entertainment business. All of this spirit and energy has never been controlled by us. But we have literally invented more than any other people on the planet Earth. But nobody speaks about black people in that capacity. Right? Nobody says that there's something special about those people, that they have the ability to invent more than anybody. How does that, why is there no scientific study to understand why? See, they don't want you to have these thoughts in your head because you start to exalt yourself beyond the foolishness.
They don't want you to know that you're a master manifester.
Yeah.
Did you know that the crack epidemic that hit the black communities in the 80s and 90s is possibly just another experiment that they did on black people? Stick around to see how melanin is involved with the biggest research done on black people that you don't know about. So here's a research article that was conducted in 1993 called The Interaction Between Chemicals and Melanin. Now I need you to pay very close attention to what I'm about to show you in this research article. The accumulation of certain chemicals in pigmented tissues due to melanin affinity is possibly the most pronounced retention mechanism of the body. So this word affinity just means the attraction that melanin has to other chemicals that makes it want to bind to it. For example, these two chemicals are found in marked concentrations in the melanin of the eye 1 year after a single injection in pigmented animals. It is now well established that a large number of substances are bound to melanin. Now, throughout this research article, I want you to pay very close attention to the references. So we all know that when a research article references another piece of information from another research article, they have to give credit to that author. For example, this scientist did research on this information in 1973 that this research article is referencing. Pay attention to the dates. So what information have we gathered so far? We know that the crack epidemic hit the black communities really hard in the 80s and the 90s, correct? And we now know that they have been conducting experiments on melanin's binding affinity to other drugs as early as 1962. So this scientist right here, Potts, in 1962 was the first to demonstrate that drugs bind to melanin. Now here's some fairly good news. Melanin actually does this as a protective mechanism. The melanin would protect these tissues by keeping potentially harmful substances bound and slowly releasing the agents in low, non-toxic concentrations. Here's another one for you guys. Competitive binding between cocaine and various drugs to synthetic levodopa melanin. And when do you think this research article was written? 1977. So before they sprinkled crack into the black communities in the 80s and 90s, they already knew of the effects that it would have on our people. They knew that our melanin would try to protect us and absorb the drugs, which would take longer for us to get high, leading to higher dosages. They knew that we would stay higher for longer because the melanin releases the drugs slowly. And they also knew that this was the perfect concoction for addiction and destroying the black community. Yes, we were a part of a larger experiment that we didn't know about.
Dr. Richard King reveals that the core of the human brain is the locus coeruleus, which is a structure that is black because it contains large amounts of neuromelanin, which is essential for its operation. 2, black infants sit, crawl, and walk sooner than whites. 3, Carol Barnes notes that human mental processes are controlled by melanin, that same chemical which gives blacks their superior physical and mental abilities. 4, some scientists have revealed that most whites are unable to produce melanin because their pineal glands are often calcified or non-functioning. Pineal calcification rates with Africans are 5 to 15%, Asians 15 to 25%, and Europeans 60 to 80%. This is the chemical basis for the cultural differences between blacks and whites. And 5, melanin endows blacks with greater mental, physical, and spiritual abilities, something which cannot be measured based on Eurocentric standards. End quote. Let that sink in. Melanin endows black people with greater mental, physical, and spiritual abilities.